Okay. I only have my partial screen up, so I'm going to have to ask for a vote by call out. So all in favor of the agenda, Scott,
Yay.
Pat,
Yay.
Mark,
Yay.
and Larry.
Yay.
Thank you. I would ask if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest or the gender nature thereof. I hear none, so that will be recorded. If something arises during the course of the meeting, please let us know. Section 4 of the previous meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the special council meeting budget number 1 be adopted.
Larry.
Thank you.
I'll second Pat.
Thank you, Pat. And began the question. All in favor, Scott,
Yay.
Pat,
Yay.
Mark,
Yay.
Larry,
Yay.
and I'm yay. Motion's carried. So my agenda goes now to 5, the draft operating budget. Was there a comment about questions from the public, or is that going to come up later in the agenda?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that will come up at later.
Thank you very much. All right. We're on to the 2021 draft operating budget then, starting with report T 2021-05, the draft operating budget. We're looking for a mover and a seconder that T 2021-05 regarding the 2021 second draft operating budget be received for information.
I'll make that motion, Pat.
Okay, I heard Pat, and
Scott will second.
thank you. Again, I'll call the question. All in favor, Scott,
Yay.
Pat,
Yay.
Mark,
Yay.
Larry.
Yay.
I vote yay. Motion's carried. So we're on to general government, the revised budget. Planning and development. And the note is that there has been no change from the first draft presented on the 14th day of January. We'll leave it to open it quickly if there's anything from council. This would be apparently your last opportunity to speak to this one. Yes, Nazrit?
You, Mr. Mayor, is it possible for me to go over 5.1?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'll just step right aside at this particular moment, and you can give me some sort of a sign if you ever want me to step back in. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to go back to the into the shade here and let you take over.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the first operating draft for 2021 was presented to the council at the first special budget meeting, which was held on January 14th of this year. During the meeting, council approved a few motions, and the package that you have in front of you, it has been updated to reflect those motions. Now, staff is proposing an increase of 3% over 2020 budget for 2021 budget. This is 2.5% base and 0.5% growth. Just to give you an idea, for an average household that's assessed at $327,000, this is equivalent to an annual increase of approximately $41. If I can take council to the table on page 1, just below, that's where I've listed all the revisions in the budgets from the first special budget meeting. I would like to go through that now. Police Service Board, they are increasing their contribution from reserve by $15,000. Council approved a motion at the first special budget meeting to decrease council's convention and seminar and mileage budget by $7,500. For committee, council actually approved a motion to put a placeholder of $2,500 for climate change committee. And in terms of grant, council approved a motion to increase the grant for Gore's Landing by $2,500. This adds up to approximately $17,500 decrease in the budget. As a result, the budget increase that we are requesting right now is 3% for 2021. If I can take council to page 2 of the staff report. On the first table, I've identified what was presented at the council meeting, at the first special budget council meeting, which was at 3.2%. The column that I've highlighted in orange, these are the changes that I just mentioned just a few minutes back. And the last 3 columns shows what is the budget now after the change. As I've said, budget staff is proposing an increase of 3%. Normally, when I present budget increases or variances, I categorize it in base, new, annualization, and council targeted initiative. In terms of base is increasing by 0.9% for the township. Personal base is increasing by 3.1%. That is COLA, step rate increase, and benefit rate increase. This is something that is not in staff's control. In terms of contribution to reserve, that is decreasing actually by $4,500, and that's because additional funding was transferred to the recreation facility reserve in 2020 to fund an old Camborne water installation project. In terms of other expenditure, it is decreasing by $8,700. This is the line that staff scrutinized to the best of our ability to make sure that there is no increase, and I think the number speaks to that. Contribution from reserve is increasing by $15,000. That's simply because Police Services Board, they are increasing their contribution from reserve, and this is a significant help to the township's budget. In terms of revenue, other revenue is increasing by approximately $18,000. All this takes the budget increase for base to an increase of 0.9%. In terms of annualization, the budget is increasing by 0.9%. This is for the 2 new positions that were approved for 2020. In terms of council targeted initiative, the budget is increasing by approximately $100,000. That is 1.2% increase. If I can take council to the next page, which is page 3 of the staff report, that's where I have identified all the council targeted initiatives. Staff is requesting $70,000 additional funding for road overlay program. Staff is requesting $10,000 to repair the drainage on Deerfield Drive. I do want to mention the true cost of this project is approximately $30,000. $20,000 will be observed in the current budget, and $10,000 is the additional we will need in order to complete this project. Staff is also requesting $10,000 to mitigate parking pressure during the pandemic. However, this increase will actually be funded from the 2021 Safe Restart Support Fund, so the net impact is going to be 0. Staff is requesting $20,000 for additional tree removal project. Combined, this is an increase of $100,000 or 1.2% on the budget. In terms of building department's budget, there is no change from what was presented at the first special budget meeting. Their personnel cost is, or budget is increasing by approximately $3,900, which is offset by their revenue increase of $3,900. So the net impact is 0. If I can take council to the next page of the staff report, page 4. This is where I've summarized water department's budget, but before I get into that, I do want to let council know that today I will go through the water department budget package, and that's when I'm going to go through detail on the budget. This just gives a summary of what you are going to be seeing soon. Water department's expenditure budget is increasing by 4.7% in terms of their base. Their personnel is increasing by 3%, and that is COLA, step rate increase, and benefit rate increase. Their contribution to reserve is increasing by approximately $40,000, and that is because we are transferring a percentage of the capital charge that we are collecting to the capital reserve so that we can fund future capital projects. Their other expenditure is decreasing by approximately $33,000. In terms of contribution from reserve, there's a significant decrease there. We are only requesting $10,000 to be transferred from the reserve. This particular reserve we're requesting is a transfer from the water rate study reserve to fund the water rate study that needs to be completed in 2021. If council does approve this by the end of 2021, that reserve will have a surplus of approximately $10,000. In terms of other revenue is increasing by approximately $110,000, and that is due to rate increase. I have attached with the staff report two other documents. One is the budget by department, and the second one is reserve and reserve fund balances, projected balances by the end of 2021. I also do want to mention something to the council. We did receive questions from Citizen Council last weekend. We are going to be replying to them directly via email. In addition to that, we are going to be posting our response on the website so that residents can also view it. Is there any question on this staff report?
Bill, if I can. Question dealing with the overall increase. You've got our increase of $41. Have you figured out what the counties and the school board increases have been? Is there any indication on the school board yet?
County's increase for house assessed at $327. We're expecting it to be around $21 or $22, sorry.
Okay, and school board, anything on them yet?
Nothing on them yet, so I'm flatlining that to zero right now. I'm not expecting any increase.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, Scott.
Let's go.
Nezrat, you mentioned some questions from our Citizens Council group. Is there going to be any opportunity today to discuss any of those amongst council?
To you, Mr. Mayor, if council want me to go through it, I will.
There's one in particular that I would like to bring up in the roads department at the appropriate time.
Yes, please, Scott. This is the appropriate time.
Okay, it was dealing with I call it maintenance costs, and we've had some overruns there in past, and we don't seem to be aligning actuals with we don't seem to be aligning budget with actuals. Were they a one-off repair that we don't need to worry about it, or should we be looking at increasing those that one line item there?
To you, Mr. Mayor, this is a question that I will ask Lucas Kelly, our Manager of Public Work, to answer. If you don't mind, I will ask our Deputy Clerk to add Lucas to this screen. And before Lucas does join, I do want to mention that, yes, we have been over budget when it came to vehicle expenditure, and that's because we have the need to keep our vehicle in good working condition. When it came to increasing budget for this year, we have been very strict because we wanted to make sure that their expenditure budget does not increase significantly. And we're hoping that this year we might be able to try our best to be within that budget. But let's assume that we are going to be over budget. We're going to make sure that something else we can keep it tight so that we can mitigate a surplus in this one. But again, as I've said, this is a year that we tried our best to keep the budget to the best of our ability. And if there is going to be an increase or overage for that budget in 2021, we will try our best to mitigate that with a decrease in another one to ensure that there is a surplus by the end of the year.
I see that Lucas has come on screen, but Nezrat, I think you have answered the question. And I'm very happy with the approach. Um, Shifting of money per se, in my words, to keep the budget as low as possible is a sound idea. So thank you. I'm going to smile and say, Lucas, good morning, but I don't need an answer from you.
Good morning, everyone. So yeah, and I'll just follow up. It was a one-off repair, and it was regarding our Liebherr loader. It was a hydraulic pumps and transmission. So it's a one-off repair item.
Is there anything else from members of council with regards to questions? This particular question? I know there was also a question about an override on rentals, and it was a very small amount of money, $7,000 some odd dollars. Personally, when I see our roads department spending money on rentals, I see two positive things. One, they're not buying some expensive piece of equipment that's going to sit for months and months in our yard doing nothing. And the second thing I see is that they're taking jobs on in-house and not hiring contractors, which would be much more expensive. And for us to have to try to give an explanation of going over budget by $7,000 in a small line item in a $3-point-some million budget, I did not find that productive at all. Not at all. I find the question offensive, to tell you the truth. Anything else from members of council? All right, thank you, Nazir. Thank you, Lucas. Want to move on?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may move to agenda item 5.2, which is the general government. Page 1 to 4 of this package, it talks about the department, their priorities, their accomplishment. We actually have gone through that at the first special budget meeting, so I'm not going to go through that again. I would like to take council to page 5 of this package. Thank you. This package was actually revised from what was presented at the special budget meeting on January 14th. And that's because council approved a motion to decrease council's convention and seminar and mileage budget by $7,500. So now the budget is increasing for general government by 14.4%. And if I can take council to the second table on page 5, base is increasing for personnel, base is increasing by 3.2, that is COLA, step rate increase and benefit rate increase. Contribution to reserve is increasing by just $4, and that's just a rounding. Other expenditure is actually decreasing by 110, and contribution from reserve, there's nothing. Other revenue is increasing by approximately $7,700. That takes the budget increase for base to 5.4%. Staff is not requesting any new position for general government department. In terms of analyzation, that's for the new position that was approved for 2020. And there is no council targeted initiative project for general government. Is there any question on page 5? If not, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, I will move on to page 6 of this package. Page 6 of this package is identical to what was presented at the first special budget meeting, except for the 2 lines that I've highlighted in yellow. Those are for the convention and seminar and mileage for council. That has been decreased by $7,500 as per the motion approved by the council at the first special budget meeting. Other than that, there is no other change. So if there is any question on page 6, I'll be happy to answer. If not, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No, I was just going to say, I'm not going to keep jumping in. I'm going to let Nazir carry on with this. And if members of council have a question, just please direct them to Nazir. I'm not the least bit offended that you don't do the old, through the mayor thing. Let's you know, let's make this work as quickly and as efficiently as we can, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move on to page 7 of this package. This page is exactly identical to what I presented at the first special budget meeting. This talks about revenue changes in budget for revenue for general government. Again, it's identical to what was presented at the first special budget meeting. Is there any question on this page? If not, I will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Planning and Development's budget. I will request everyone to move to page 2 of this package, simply because page 1 talks about accomplishment and priorities for the department, which we already have gone through. This page 2 of this package, we did not change it. There is no change from what was presented at the first special budget meeting. Planning Department is requesting an increase of $599 or 0.6%. Is there any question on this page? If not, I will move on to the next page. Page 3 of this package. Again, this is identical to what was presented at the first special budget meeting. If there is any question, I'd be happy to answer. I will move on to agenda 5.4, which is the building department's budget. If I can take council to page 3 of this package. Page 3 of this package has not been revised since the last special budget meeting. It's identical to what we presented there. And I also went through this when I went over the staff report. Their personnel is increasing by 2.3% because of COLA step rate increase, which is offset by their revenue. Is there any question on this page? I will move on to page 4 of the staff report, of this package. Again, this is identical to what was presented at the first special budget meeting. If there is any question, I would be happy to answer. With your permission, Mr. Mayor, I will move on to bylaw enforcement. I would request, just have to go below, down, Emily? Yes, bylaw. I would request everyone to move to page 2 of this package. There is no change from what we presented at the first special budget meeting. Personnel is increasing by only $1,700. The entire budget for bylaw is increasing by $1,780, and that is related to COLA, separate increase, and benefit rate increase for personnel. Is there any question on this page? I will move to the next page, which is just the budget pressure. Again, the same information was presented at the special budget meeting on January 14. No change for this package. Is there any question on this page? I will now move to fire department's budget. I'd like to request council to move to page 5 of this budget package. There is no change from what was presented at this first special budget meeting. Fire department, they are requesting a budget increase of 3% or approximately $3,500. Is there any question on fire department's budget package, page number 5? I will then move on to page 6, which identifies the budget pressure. This is identical to the first special budget meeting that was presented. Is there any question on page 6 of this package? If not, I will move on to the next package, which is police services budget. If I can kindly ask council to go to page 2 of this package. Police services budget is actually decreasing by 2.4%. Again, this is identical to what we presented at the first special budget meeting, and this is based on OPP billing statement that we have received. Any question on this page? If not, I will move to page 3 of this package, which is identical to what I have presented at the first special budget meeting, a decrease of 2.4% based on the OPP billing statement we have received. Any question on this page? If not, I will move on to Police Services Board reserve, Police Service Board budget. If I can request council to move to page 2 of this package. This package has been revised from what we presented at the first special budget meeting. Police Service Board, they are transferring the additional $15,000 from the reserve, and that honestly is helping the township's budget significantly, and that is reflected in this budget package. Any question on page 2? If I can move to page 3, sorry, there's no page. So page 2, if there's no question, I will move on to the next package, which is GRCA budget. This is identical to what I had presented at the first special budget meeting. A motion was approved on November 17, 2020 to pre-approve this budget. GRCA budget is increasing by 4.4%, and that's simply because last year when we were doing 2020 budget, they reduced the budget for one of the projects by approximately $8,000. It's just going back to what it was in the previous years. Any question on page 2 of this package? I will move to page 3 of this package, which is identical to what I presented at this first special budget meeting and just shows that budget is increasing by 4.4%. Is there any question on this page? We'll now move on to the emergency management package. If I can kindly request council to go to page 2 of the emergency management package. The budget is increasing by $1,000, and that's exactly what we have presented at the first special budget meeting. And this is aligned with actual. And in 2020, this budget was actually reduced by $1,000. We're just requesting to go back to what it was in the previous years. Any question on this page? If not, I would move on to page 3 of this package, which is exactly what we presented and what I just mentioned, that we're requesting an increase of $1,000. Any question on this page? If not, I will move on to parking budget. I would like to request council to move to page 2 of this budget package. This is identical to what I presented at the first special budget meeting. We are requesting $10,000 to mitigate parking pressure during the pandemic, which is being offsetted by Safe Restart Fund 2021 allocation. So the net impact is 0 for the budget. Is there any question on this page? Yes, Scott.
If we find that we are falling short with funds in this budget line, would there be additional funds that we could source from the same as we are for this right now?
To you, Mr. Mayor, that depends on where we stand at the end of the year, but we have 2 options. If we are going to be over budget, meaning if we are going to be needing more than $10,000, we either go to the Safe Restart Fund or General Reserve. But before I withdraw any fund from additional fund from any other reserve, I will come back to the council for their permission for me to do the transfer.
Obviously, I'm concerned that we have sufficient funds there to do the job properly. I've spoken of the crystal ball in previous discussions, and I understand why we're using this number and that none of us truly know how good or bad it's going to be for us. So thank you, Nezrat.
Thank you.
Nazar, could you give us any idea of how much money is still in the Restart Fund that we have not allocated to specific purpose?
Great. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we received approximately $300,000 from the first allocation and $60,000 from the second allocation. What we are going to be doing once all the numbers for 2020 is in, once the audit is done, then we will know the numbers are absolutely correct. Then I will bring a report to the council where I'll inform the council exactly how much will be transferred from the first allocation. The projection that I have shown to the council a few months back indicated that we will be using the entire $300,000 from the first intake, simply because our revenue was not at the rate that we expected to earn for 2020 because of the pandemic.
Thank you.
Is there any other question on page 2 of this package? I would like to move to page 3 of this package, which is exactly what was presented at the first special budget meeting. We are requesting a $10,000 to mitigate the parking pressure, which will be offsetted by the Safe Restart Fund. Any question on this page? If not, I would like to move to animal control. For animal control, again, the budget has been flatlined. There is no change. This is exactly what was presented at the first special budget meeting. Any question on this?
Yeah, if I may, this program is almost, it's totally been overhauled by the provincial government. And I think this could be just probably a line item. You may want to put in one of the departments, perhaps general government. And the other part that goes along with this is, I mean, there's a lot less livestock within our municipality, especially in the sheep and lamb area. So the claims and so forth are going to be a lot less than they have been in the past. So I would strongly recommend you just not waste a whole lot of paper and put this as a line item again, perhaps in general government.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so when I'm going to be working on 2022 budget, I will include this as part of general government. And I do also want to mention that for emergency management, I do remember Councillor Lufshin mentioned that we should include that in the fire department's budget, and that is my intention for the 2022 budget. If there is no question on this page, I will move on to municipal animal services budget. If I can ask council to move to page 2 of this budget, there is no change from what I have presented at the first special budget meeting. Animal services budget has been flatlined, no increase for 2021. Is there any question on animal services budget?
I'd like to jump in if I could, Nazar, just so that, we're sure that the rest of council is aware of the upcoming situation in MAS. The town of Cobourg has indicated that they're withdrawing from the service. They put their 2-year notice in almost a year ago now, is that correct? We're
Yes.
almost at the 1-year level. So we have only one more year at status quo, in which case we are going to be faced with some very, very difficult decisions as to where we go with our municipal animal services. Because as most of you are aware, payment is on per capita, so we're losing our largest contributor to the program. And for the 3 remaining municipalities to carry this on, we're going to have to consider any and all kinds of major changes. So that's just kind of a heads up, and it's also, I guess, a notice to other members of council that if you have ideas or input, as to where we might go, you can start thinking about those things and drop me some emails or whatever on as to your thoughts as to where we might go. But we're looking at about more than a $70,000 loss from losing the town of Cobourg, and there's absolutely no way the other 3 municipalities are going to make that number up. So it is my intention, as you know, I'm on MAS, it's my intention that if we are able to carry this on, it's going to have to be carried on at no more than our current budget amount that we have right now. That's going to be, we're going to be looking at some major changes to cut $70,000 or $75,000 out of that department. So that's just a heads up for everybody that wasn't aware of that happening.
Is there any question on municipal animal services budget? If not, I will move on to roads budget. If I can request council to go to page 3 of this package. This is identical to what we presented at the first special budget meeting. Roads Department is requesting a budget for 4.8%. However, their base increase is only 1.2%. The annualization is 0.7%, and council targeted initiative that I've mentioned today is in the roads budget. I do remember last time at the council meeting, councillors had questions on the railway road. Lucas Kelly, our manager of public works, will be answering that question now. Lucas?
Good morning, and thank you, Nazrat. So I did review Railway Road. I met with Trevor Clapperton, the parks manager. There is a bit of a drainage issue, and I think if we wanted to resolve some of it or all of it, we would have to install an asphalt gutter on the beach side. There would be obviously a cost to complete this work. I did an estimate, and to install the asphalt gutter, you're about $3,500. But when you do that, do we then have to regrade the parking lot? We probably will have to. So there's an additional cost of about $2,000. So which leads into an increase of about, to complete the regrading and to install an asphalt gutter, you're approximately $5,500. And that's not touching the existing road condition. That was just to install a gutter along the existing edge of pavement on railway, which would then loop around, I'll call it the beach, along the larger rocks and outlet it on the north side of the parking lot.
Lucas, if I might,
Yep.
Is this a project that we should look at in total for a 2022 budget and do that road as well?
I think to complete it, I think maybe that is something that we could look at in 2022 budget, yes.
None of us, again, have a crystal ball to predict how bad the runoff's going to be. Is there any stopgap thing we could do there other than the asphalt curb to keep it until we get to it in 2022?
I guess it's one of those things that staff just have to monitor, and if we do get a call, we address it. Obviously, we're not out there on a daily basis. This spring, there won't be a lot of snow runoff, I hope. But if we get a torrential downpour, then that's something that we could take a look at and continue to monitor it. We could install a barrier of some sort, maybe with some coal patch, but until I see firsthand where the water is running to, we could install something in that nature to deflect the water somewhere else.
Thanks, Lucas. I guess my mindset is to do a complete and a good job in a future budget.
I'd jump in and support that idea. If we can't, I don't want to add anything to this year's budget, and unless it can be done out of what you already have in operating for this year, Lucas, I think Scott's got a very good idea that we incorporate this into our overall roads plan and include it in next year's budget. Thanks, Scott.
Is there any more question on page 3 of this package? If not, I will move to page 4 of this package. This is identical to what we presented at the first special budget meeting. Is there any question on page 4 of this package? If not, I will move to page 5 of this package. Is there any question on page 5 of this package? This is identical to what was presented at the first special budget meeting. If not, I will move to the next budget package, which is Parks and Recreation. I would like to request council to move.
Sorry, we
Yeah.
didn't discuss page 8 of roads. Can we go back to that page?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to draw this page back to our attention because this is the one that contains the vehicle repair expense line that was discussed earlier with Scott and explained by Lucas. So, and also asked by the Citizens Council group. So I guess what I'm saying is, rather than spend more staff time answering that question online, that question has been answered in today's budget, clearly. There are also other questions that will be answered today in the budget. And again, I don't want staff time spent on writing out long, detailed answers on those when they're being explained here. I would also add that some of the questions in that list are repeat questions. They have been asked before and answered before. And if staff feels that that's the case, then again, it would be my suggestion that you simply answer that question by saying it's been asked and it's been answered, and that we do not spend staff resources writing out long, detailed answers to questions that simply can't benefit us in what we're doing here today. Thanks.
With your permission, Mr. Mayor, I will move to Parks and Recs budget. If I can take council to page 3 of this budget package. This is identical to what we have presented at the first special budget meeting. Is there any question on page 3 of this package? If not, I will move to the next page of this package, page 4 of this package. This is again identical to what we have presented at the first special budget meeting on January 14th. Any question on page 4 of this package? I would like to move to page 5 of this package, which again is identical to what we presented at the special budget meeting on January 14th. Any question on page 5 of this package? If not, I will move to the next budget package, which is library's budget.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to ask a quick question dealing with Parks and Recreation. And I know Trevor must be having a hip fit trying to manage that department right now. I mean, I'm a little, I guess my main question is, and what are you doing as far as bookings go? Are we actually starting to book people in for the fall of this year, or are we still hesitant on that? Or how are we doing with our hall rentals and our ice surfaces and so forth? If you don't mind, Trevor, just give a brief on that.
Yes, so through the mayor, yeah, it has been frustrating. It's been a moving target all year. And obviously we've had to adapt kind of weekly as changes come up. As it stands right now, we are planning to reopen the arenas on February 11th. If the reopen in Ontario is back to the color code of yellow that we were before. The biggest impact if we open to if our health unit opens to a red zone, then we'll be limited to what we can offer. So again, we just kind of, we're monitoring at this point. We've done everything in our power to keep our expenses down by turning up the ice plant, thinning the ice down. Our ice plants are running very limited, like a couple hours a day. So we're really, we've done our due diligence that way. As far as bookings go, we found the last time we've accepted bookings and then it made more work for us to go in and cancel as they changed. So right now we're just penciling in people. We're still getting requests, but there's a lot of changes that may come, for example, from the sanctioning bodies like the OMHA that govern. They, you know, whatever the government comes up with for us to reopen, them sanctioning bodies, whatever their plans are. So we're following all that stuff. We're trying to stay on top of it. And it seems to be, like I said, a moving target and changing daily. But at this point, we're scheduled to reopen on the 11th. Hopefully there's an announcement next week that will let us know whether that's going to happen or not.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Trevor. I don't envy you right now trying to do what you're doing. So all
No, it's definitely a challenge.
I bet.
Is there any more questions on Parks and Rec's budget? If not, I will move to library's budget. If I can take council to page 2 of this package, the budget is increasing by 2.1%. This is identical to what we presented at the first special budget meeting. Any question on this page? If not, I'll move on to the next page, which again is identical to library's budget, please. Yes. Page 3. This is identical to what we presented at this first special budget meeting. Is there any question on library's budget? If not, I will now move to the committee grants and other committees budget, community grant and other committees budget. Page 1. If I can ask council to move to page 1, this budget was revised from what was presented at the first special budget meeting, simply because council approved a motion to place a placeholder of $2,500 for the climate change committee and increase Gorse Landing grant by $2,500. So that's an increase of $5,000. Other than that, there is no change from what was presented at the first special budget meeting. Any question on this page?
I'll just, I guess, speak up that we, Mark and I are going to be taking a request to Police Services Board to maybe help fund some of these groups that we weren't able to, come up to their full amount. I have since checked with NUSRED, and I believe that Police Service Board reserves are one of their lower points at this particular time, primarily because we put money back into the municipal budget. But correct me, NUSRED, did you say there was $11,000 remaining? I believe that's the number.
To you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it will be approximately $11,000 after that additional $15,000 is transferred to the from the reserve.
All right. So, and the additional request that we're going to go with on Friday will take that budget down to a number lower than it has been in the 6 years that I've been there. That being said, that money's not doing anybody any good sitting there, but it may be a little more difficult for Mark and I to sell this idea to the rest of the board if the budget's going to go down to a $2,000 or $3,000 level. But that's for discussion, and we'll obviously do the best that we can. But I'm not quite as optimistic as I was the first time I brought the subject up to take this to police services, simply because we have already, stepped up, I would say, to try and help out the ratepayers. So, thank you.
To you, Mr. Mayor, if there's no more questions on the community grant package, I will move on to the next one.
Just a quick one, Nezra, if you would. Can you send Bill and myself an email just stating how much is needed for those committees, so we're clear on that when we present this tomorrow?
Absolutely, Mr. Councillor Matt Levshin. I will get that to you today.
Thank you very much.
I would like to move on to the next budget package, which is the Water Department's operating budget. This was not presented at the first special budget meeting, so I will request the Manager of Water to introduce this section to the Council.
Morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'd like to go over 2020 accomplishments. Staff devised and executed, and we're continuing to follow the plan to protect the workforce during COVID, which ensures the township provides safe and secure water operations. Third-party water rate study in preparation for our drinking water license renewal in 2021. There was an overhaul of our DWQMS, which stands for Drinking Water Quality Management System, to bring it up to standard 2.0. There was a replacement of a 12-inch distribution mainline valve on County Road 45. There was emergency replacement of a corroded coupling in Clearwell. There was emergency well rehabilitation for Camborne Water System due to catastrophic failure of both wells. Our operations team ensured uninterrupted supply to Camborne water users. Also in 2020, there was the hiring of myself, the new water operations manager. For 2021 priorities, plan on repairing and replacing section of Creighton Heights high lift discharge header due to a leak at a flange. We'll have to construct a temporary header. Its high lift system supplies pressure and flow. Completion of rehabilitation of well 1A and 2A at Camborne is necessary to secure water supply for Camborne. Pending budget approval, we will be pursuing the following projects: Creighton Heights well inspection and upgrades based on inspection findings, placement of Camborne's flow control valves for the raw water wells and one pressure tank. We will continue with water meter upgrades in both towns. There will be MCC maintenance at both plants to ensure continued reliable operation. We plan on mainline and hydrant valve turning in Creighton Heights, as the requirement is at least 1/3 to half of all the valves each year.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Anita, do you want me to move to the budget now?
Yes, please, Nusrat.
Okay. If I can ask council to move to page 3 of this package. I've actually gone through this when I presented the staff report. Their expenditure budget is increasing by 4.7%. Their base personnel is increasing by 3%, and that is COLA, step rate increase, and benefit rate increase. Contribution to reserve is increasing by $40,000, and that's because a percentage of the capital charge, we are transferring it to a capital reserve so that it can fund capital budget in the future. Other expenditure is decreasing by $33,000, and when I go through the budget pressure, I'll go over that in detail. Contribution from reserve, staff is actually requesting only $10,000 to be contributed from the reserve for 2021. And this particular reserve is the water rate study reserve. And we're requesting this $10,000 to fund the water rate study that we have to do in 2021. In terms of other revenue, it's increasing by approximately $110,000, and that's mainly because of rate increase. Is there any question on this page?
Nazar, I was just going to ask that, so the 10% rate increase is responsible for the 110,709.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it's mainly because of the 10% rate increase, but also volume. We've done another analysis to make sure that we're using the correct volume for 2021 budget.
And I have to ask, is the 10% increase that was agreed upon, is that going to be enough to cover operating expenditures for the year 2021? Or are we going to go further in the wrong direction?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the 10% increase is not sufficient to cover the operating expenditure for 2021. However, this is what we did. When we were doing the rate study, we wanted to transfer a significant portion of the capital charge that we collect from the water users to a water capital reserve so that they can be used to fund water capital expenditure in the future. In order for us to flatline the fund that was borrowed from the township and not increase the deficit in the water reserve, we're proposing to transfer less amount to the capital reserve from the water capital charge that we're collecting. So to answer your question again, the 10% increase does not fully cover the operating expenditure for 2021.
Thank you.
Is there any more question on page 3 before I move on to the detailed water budget? I would like to request council to move to page 4 of this package. Personnel is increasing by 3%, and that is related to step rate increase, COLA, and benefit rate increase. Transfer to capital reserve is increasing by $38,000, and this is what I just mentioned a few minutes back. We collect capital charge from the residents, and we're transferring $38,000 to the capital reserve so that we can fund future capital projects. Transfer to Lucy's capital reserve. This is what we collect from Lucy's customer for the capital funding. That the entire amount we're transferring to the capital reserve for Lucy. In terms of training, we are reducing the budget by $2,400. That is aligned with actual, but we do want to keep some contingency. In terms of membership, we are increasing that budget line by $300, and that is aligned with actual. Mileage and fuel, we are decreasing that by $500, aligned with actual. Lab supplies, we are increasing that by $755, again aligned with actual, and we want to have contingency there too. Telephone, we are reducing that by $250, and that is aligned with actual. Dispatching service, we are reducing that by $150, aligned with actual. Vehicle repair, we are reducing that by $5,000. That's aligned with actual, and we want to keep a contingency. But I do want to remind council that we are requesting a vehicle for 2021 in the capital project, capital budget. So if that vehicle is approved, we will be able to maintain the budget for $5,000. Consultant general, we are actually reducing that by significantly. We are only requesting $10,000 for consultant general for the 2021 rate study. As I've mentioned, that is going to, we are proposing that that will be funded from the rate study reserve. So the net impact is zero. Computer hardware, software, and internet support, we are increasing that by $7,000, and that's related to SCADA and Neptune software. Hydro, we are reducing that by $2,000. That is aligned with actual. Heating fuel, we are reducing that by $500, aligned with actual, but we do want to keep some contingency. Telephone, we are increasing that by $300, again aligned with actual. Line maintenance, we are increasing this by $12,500, aligned with actual. If you look at the actual for 2020 and also 2019, this is where we are trying to be proactive to maintain preventive maintenance. Line maintenance for Picton Height, we are also increasing that by $10,000. We're aligned with actual. If you look at the actual history for 2019 and 2020, you will see that there is a need for us to increase the budget. Is there any question on page 4 of this package?
Any other members? I have questions, 2 of them actually. One about our capital reserve funds. So we're collecting enough money to put some money into reserves. So in the previous years, then what's happened to that money? Has it been eaten up by operating expenses?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in the previous years, we also did the same thing. But what we did is at the end of the year, once all the numbers were in, we will see what surplus there was, including this capital amount, and then we would transfer it to the reserve. So the rate generated revenue was never sufficient to cover the operating expenditures. So we used the capital charges fund that we have received to pay for that, and whatever was left, it was transferred to the water reserve. But this year, what I'm proposing is rather than transferring it to the water reserve, let's transfer it to the capital reserve so we can distinguish between operating and capital more clearly.
Thank you. And I don't know, one other question. I did look into the surplus ambulance with regards to the vehicle. Got an email return, and I believe, if Anita, you're still there, have you had any further correspondence from county paramedics?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I have not, and evidently yesterday I just reached out again to the county person that you contacted, and there has been no reply.
Okay, that would be Chief Brown, paramedic. So I'll get, when this is over, I'll send another little nudge myself as well. Okay, thank you for that. That's all the questions I have.
Is there any more question before I move to page 5 of this package? If I can ask council to move to page 5 of this package. Transfer from reserve, we are requesting $10,000. As I've mentioned, this is to fund the rate study that we will be doing in 2021. This is going to be funded from the rate study reserve. In terms of meter sale, we are increasing that by $1,500 aligned with actual. Lucy cost recovery increasing by $2,200. And as I've mentioned earlier, this entire amount will be transferred to the Lucy capital reserve. Water billing, we are increasing that by approximately $95,000, and that is related to the rate increase of 10% and average volume increases that we have seen. Capital cost recovery is increasing by 10% as per the rate increase approved by the council for 2021. Is there any question on page 5 of this? Yeah. Councillor Jib?
Thank you, Nezrat. Nezrat, for clarity, could you explain the usage of that $10,000 for a 2022 rate study, when in fact we've just done a rate study for 2021?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a motion was approved last week at the council meeting that council want us to do another rate study for 2022 rates, and that's what it is.
Thank you, Nezrat. I think for any of our people that are with us today, they should recognize the fact that our decision last week had an automatic $10,000 hit here in relationship to doing an additional study. Thank you, Nezrat.
Is there any more question on page 5 of this package? Through you, Mr. Mayor, if there is no question, that concludes the operating budget section for 2021. Is there any question on 2021 operating budget?
Other members of council, anybody? So I just want to, throw a quick statement in with regards to the water again. We know this is messy. I guess there's no other word for it, but I do want to comment that our current treasurer and our current water operations manager inherited this. This is something that they've walked into, and I want to commend both of them up front for their honesty and the openness that they're using in explaining this issue to council. That they may not be telling us what we want to hear, but they're telling us what we need to hear. And I know it's not difficult for them, and I know that they've taken some criticism, and that criticism, I believe, is not justified. I just want to get that out in the open.
Bill, if I could echo that, your list should have, in my point of view, included accuracy in their presentation, which I am very comfortable with and very pleased to have. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
if I may request for the 2021 operating budget, there has not been any change in this today's meeting. Can I request that council, would it be possible for me to request the council to approve the budget for 2021 operating today?
right, that
Because
does
again,
not, that doesn't include capital, what we've discussed to this point.
exactly.
I would make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Seconded by Pat. I see a hand firing up. So last chance for discussion on operating budgets. Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor, Scott?
Yay.
Pat?
Yay.
Mark?
Yay.
Larry?
Yay.
And I'm also yay. And just a last quick comment on that. At 3% sounds like, more than may have been comfortable with, but the actual budget that we're approving is only 0.9. The rest of those things are beyond our control, which would be money from last year's budget towards a new position, one which has already reaped us many benefits, in my opinion. Can only commend Emily for the job that she's done since she's joined us, the new initiatives that she's undertaken. And the other part of the budget increase would have been, our own initiatives, things that we've told the departments that we want included. And some of those we just simply have to do. In the issue of trees, I mean, we have a liability issue, and it has to look like we're trying to do something about that, because we all know with regards to liability, when there's a problem that we're aware of and we don't do something about it, we're in a terrible liability position. If it's something we don't know about, it's completely different. But we're all aware of the fact that we have dead and decaying ash trees throughout our municipality, which are hazardous on our roads. So we simply have to do those things. And I know I'm sounding apologetic. I guess maybe that's the way I do feel with regards to ratepayers, to tell them that, we had to tack those things onto their budget, but they're just things that we simply have to do them for good governance. So again, that's something else I just wanted to get out there and get it off my chest. So thank you, Nazareth. So that sort of concludes that section of the budget. Checking clock, it's 20 after 11. Do we want to plow through this and try to complete? Do we want a short break before we start the capital portion of the budget, or do we want to just go right into it and stop at a designated time, say 12 o'clock, and take the break then? What is the council's wishes?
I'm for just going right through.
Scott here, I echo that.
Me
Are
too.
you saying no, like not to stop at 12?
Well, reassess at that point in time and see how much we got left.
Good idea. Okay, then let's stick to it then.
To you, Mr. Mayor, then I will move on to the next item on agenda, which is the 2021 capital budget. Staff report number 2021-06. Staff is recommending that council receive this report. For 2021 draft capital budget, staff is proposing a budget of approximately $2.6 million. Of that, $234,900 is related to water. At the first special budget meeting, when staff presented the capital budget, the first draft, council approved to defer the Crichton Heights water supply master plan from 2021. So that has been removed from this budget. If I can take council to page 3 of this.
So Nazir, before you go on, do we need a motion to accept this for information and then discuss it, or are we going to make a motion at the end?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's up to you.
Okay, so my agenda calls for us to make a motion to accept T2021-06 for information. So I think we should follow our.
I'll move, Bill. Scott.
Thank you. And
I'll
Pat,
second that.
thank you, Pat. All in favor, Scott,
Yay.
Pat,
Yay.
Mark,
Yay.
Larry,
Yay.
and I include yay, so that motion's carried. Thank you, Nazir. You can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can request everyone to move to Appendix A of this staff report. This is where I've identified the capital budget by department. I'll go through each department, and if council has any question for departments, we will be able to answer. I'll start with fire department. They are requesting $170,000 for their capital project. $54,000 will be funded from reserve, and the remaining will be funded from development charges. Is there any question on fire department's capital budget request? If not, I will move to roads fleet budget. They are requesting $382,000 for the truck and also Promac Brusher. The entire amount will be funded from reserve. Is there any question on road fleet's budget request?
Council, anything about a new truck or anything about a brusher?
Has a question. I guess to Lucas, we discussed recently about some recovery costs. Is there any further thoughts on that, Lucas, or any changes from what we've had in the past?
So I think you're referring to the brusher, Deputy Mayor, is that correct?
Well,
For
there was the brusher and some other vehicles that we might be able to get a few dollars for if we're lucky enough to get past COVID.
Correct, and that is correct. That once COVID and this pandemic is over, there would be vehicles, the surplus vehicles would be sold on auction, as well as a replacement of the dump truck. The older one would be sold on Gov Deals and become it'll go back into the surplus, into the reserve. And as for the brusher, it would be my recommendation to replace it with a new brusher because it's brand new, full warranty. And I didn't even account for the revenue that would generate from Gov Deals. And I can't really put a number on it because you never know with an auction, but we would gain some revenue back into our reserve.
Just to follow up, if I might, Lucas, I say again, assuming past COVID, what's the number of vehicles we might be able to get rid of?
There would be a 3/4 ton, half ton, a 1 ton, that's as it stands right now. And then if this budget is passed as shown here, then we would sell then the second dump truck or the spare dump truck.
So potentially 4 vehicles then.
Three.
Oh, okay. When you said one of those half tons, 3/4 tons twice, I was counting it twice.
Sorry.
that was a re-summary of your summary then. So 3 vehicles, one of which would be a tandem snowplow.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else from other members of council? So quick comment for me again. I can't seem to stay quiet today. We've been criticized in the past for buying new vehicles through the roads department. We have a recent criticism for the amount of money that's being spent to maintain and repair the vehicles that we do have. I guess unless you come up with an option, Lucas, where we don't buy any new vehicles and we don't spend any money on the ones we have, we could certainly help our budget a great deal if you can come up with some plan for that. Otherwise, we either have to buy new vehicles or spend a lot of money fixing the ones we have. It's just as simple as that.
So can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor? Who would buy the spare dump truck? What kind of company or
They-
operation would buy that?
private contractors. I don't have the number in front of me, but typically the last truck we sold, it went to actually Quebec. So who knows? So contractors, it's open to the public through GovDeals, so it can go anywhere.
I just wondered, it's going to be reused. I just wonder if, can we use it? I guess that's the question I'm asking. But no, the truck 2040, can you describe that truck again for us? Or are we going to do that later on?
So it is in that budget enhancement sheet. I think it's page 4. It does talk about it. That truck is 23 years old. It has some significant repairs that are needed. I mean, it is in our public works yard. I'm not sure, Larry, what specific questions you're really referring to.
I'm just asking because we're looking for another truck, and I just want to make sure that we cover off
I guess it's not another truck, it's a replacement of an existing truck. So we're not adding to our fleet, it's just a replace of existing.
So we will be selling off another truck and applying that to that. Okay, because that's a lot of money, $330,000. But I understand. We can talk about it in more detail later. Thank you. Thank you, Lucas.
Lucas, if I could buy in, I think your comment and the enhancement sheet information of it being 23 years old does sort of answer a lot of thoughts.
And Lucas, these vehicles go on GovDeals, which is internet. It's province-wide or country-wide, actually. We sell the vehicles as is, where is?
Sorry, you broke up. I missed that. Sorry, what was that, Mayor?
I thought my internet was better. When we sell the vehicles, they're sold as is, where is?
Yeah, there's no warranty. It says that right on GovDeals, as is, where is, and they're responsible to move them out of our yard, floating or drive it.
And it's cash.
Correct, yes.
And that
Well, I
money
think
goes,
it's certified check. I think it's a certified check.
same thing.
I don't get cash.
That money goes to road reserves, or does it go to general reserves?
To you, Mr. Mayor, that money will be going to roads reserve.
Right, thank you. Any other questions?
If I can ask just one question, that is, I think Lucas outlined the 3 vehicles that were going to be disposed of on GovDeals. And if the Promac Brusher is also replaced, we would be selling that as well. Is that correct?
Correct, that is.
If I could, I mean, Lucas, when these are sold off, could you just bring the amounts perhaps to our coordinators meeting so that, council could be aware and see what we do get if they read the minutes?
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any additional question on road fleet budget request? If not, I will move on to roads reserve capital budget request. They are requesting $1,540,000. The list is in front of you. I do want to mention that every single project request here, we have business enhancement sheet attached. So if council would like to review that, that is part of this package. Any question on roads budget request?
If I may, Lucas, at the last meeting, I asked you to double check about Hillview at the north end where the post office, so the box is, because it still seems to be breaking up. And I thought it was originally slated for 2020 and now it's not in either from 2020 or 2021. Were you able to follow up on that?
So I did review my notes from the past budgets and I could not find anything regarding Hillview for any road reconstruction. However, we do have in our budget some repair money that maybe in that specific area when we do surface treatment in that smaller area, we could just repair it in our operating budget.
It's just like I said, it's the area that's nearest where the box is. It just seems to be breaking down more and more as people hit the shoulder to get to their mail.
Okay, I'll make a note of it.
Thank you.
Is there any more question on roads capital budget? If not, I will move to Parks and Recreation's capital budget request. They are requesting $235,000 for a new ice resurfacer and HVAC upgrade. 135,000 of it will be funded from reserve and 100,000 from the grant. Is there any question on Parks and Recreation's capital budget request? If not, I will move on to the general government budget request for $80,000 for technology improvement, which will be funded from the efficiency fund. Is there any question on this budget request? If not, I will move on to water capital budget request. We have removed $150,000 from this request based on the motion that was approved by the council at the first special budget meeting. Water is requesting $234,900 worth of capital. Is there any question on this request?
Yes, Ed Nesret, it's Larry.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why we're not applying some monies from the gas tax? You know, in other words, a 10% addition from the gas tax to the water budget?
Right. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Normally what we're doing, we're using the entire fund that we receive from gas tax for roads. If we don't use the entire amount, that will be a significant increase to property tax rate for the township. Keep in mind that that increase will also impact water users because they're also residents of the township.
I'm just trying to understand where we can get some money from, you know, to offset some of the expenses in the debt. Can I ask, has staff started to acquire information about grants and or funding from federal and provincial governments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we have, and we have received some information about one particular grant that we're going to be looking into. I should be able to bring that forward to the council, at the coordinators meeting at least, very soon. But again, I don't have too much information to proceed with that yet. I'm looking into that particular grant.
And what about the funds for for instance, the ICIPI, the Infrastructure Ontario funding? Have you started to, or will you start to work on those, investigating the process and procedures and on that?
Absolutely, through you, Mr. Mayor. As it was mentioned a few times, we did apply for ICIP fund in the past, just last year, and we did not get approved for it. Anytime any fund will be available, we will be applying for it.
Okay, good, thank you.
If I may as well, through Mayor Kane, we also, in addition to pursuing the ICIP program formally, which is going to be occurring later this year, we're planning on following up on the discussions we've been having with MPP Pacini's office, with the meeting with the mayor and staff and that office to see if there's anything that can be, any sort of support and assistance that can be provided to help us address the very sort of real capital charges that we're being faced with and in the repair of those facilities. So we are pursuing that, and that'll be a step before the applications and see if there's any assistance again that can be pursued.
Is there any more question on water capital budget request?
I guess, Nazar, I'm just going to bring this out into the open again. It's the other question that's been asked with regards to us, lending money from general reserves to water. And maybe I just ask for some clarity from you to verify what I believe is the situation. general reserves are basically our emergency funds. We have had other departments, fire, roads, borrow from general reserves in the past when there's not been sufficient funds for them to meet their needs. And that money's been then paid back into general reserves in succeeding budgets. Everything, is that all correct so far?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, for water is slightly different from
Yes, it
other,
is. I just wanted to clarify that that's what we've done with other departments in the past.
so other department.
Yes, we have done that before. So water's not new. This isn't something new that we've borrowed money from general reserves for a department that's in trouble. We've done it in the past for other departments.
So we do borrow money from our bank to fund the deficit in other departments.
Right, thank you. So this is not a different situation. And the only way that this situation is different is that when we loan money to other departments, it's interest-free. When we're loaning money to the water rate users, we are in fact actually charging them a minimal interest rate, that rate being the amount of money that we would have made had we left that money in a low interest bearing fund in the bank.
That's absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor.
And that number is considerably less than the amount we would be paying if we borrowed the money from Infrastructure Ontario.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I will give you an example. For 2020, our bank, the interest that we would have earned in our bank account would be 1%. If we borrowed from Infrastructure Ontario, their rates are dependent on the number of years it will take us to pay back the fund. If you can recall, when Gary Scanlon from Watson and Associate, he presented one of his options for 20% increase for the first 3 years and 5% thereafter. He mentioned that this deficit can be funded paid back in 10 years. So taking that into consideration, although that was not the rate that was approved, but let's just take that into consideration. If water department can pay back the township within 10 years, the rate that we will be receiving from Infrastructure Ontario is approximately 1.5%, which is higher than what we are going to be charging water department for borrowing money from the township. So in this case, township is not losing anything because we are earning the interest that we would have earned. Water department is actually benefiting because the rates that township is charging to the water department, it's lower than what Infrastructure Ontario would have charged, because again, we cannot pay back the money within 5 years.
Thank you. I think that's very clear. And to continue this line of thinking, do we have any other departments in the municipality that are suffering because of a lack of funds that we're not able to supply them from our general reserves?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is a question that was asked a few times so far.
Yes, it has been. And I want to get the answer out there once and for all.
Lending the money to the water department does not prevent the township from starting any project that we need to start. We have a healthy reserve. So yes, lending the money is not harming the township.
And it is not in any way affecting our day-to-day operations. It is not in any way affecting capital expenditures in any other department whatsoever.
To you, Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely correct. It is not affecting our capital expenditure in any of the departments because we're lending money to the water department.
So to go back to the questions that you're expected to answer on the internet through our website, I think you can cross this one off your list as having been answered at today's meeting. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I just had one further comment through Mayor Kay, and that is that these rates that have been discussed here have been verified, updated as late as sort of earlier this week. So it's very current information, and it reflects what the market is saying. So again, I think Treasurer Nazat has outlined the very real sort of consequences or impact of it, and done a very good job to explain the no impact on the general taxpayer.
Is there any other question on the capital budget? If not, can I request council to approve the 2021 capital budget?
Thank you. Need a motion from the floor, please.
I'll move it, Bill, if you need a
Thank you,
mover.
Mark.
I'll second it, Pat.
Thank you. Last chance for discussion. I'm going to call this question. I can see everybody on screen, but I'm going to call this as a recorded vote, please. So Scott,
Yay.
Pat,
Yay.
Mark,
Yay.
Larry,
Yay.
Bill, yay. So the budget is passed unanimously for 2021. Thank you, council.
So this means we do not have another budget meeting to attend in the future.
There's that bonus as well, yes.
Not for 2021.
Right, yeah. So thank you. Now we're moving on quickly then in our agenda. I'm glad that you suggested we push this through. We have no closed session today. So we're looking for a confirmatory bylaw. We need a mover and a seconder that bylaw 2021-07 being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of the special council budget meeting number 2 and to authorize its execution be given first, second, third reading, and finally passed this 28th day of January 2021.
Scott will so move this one and the next one.
Not sure
I'll
that-
second this one.
just going back to Robert's rules, I'm not really sure that we can do that, but we'll try to make sure we get this covered correctly. So we have a mover and a seconder for our confirmatory bylaw. So I'm going to ask for the vote on that one. Scott,
Yay.
Pat,
Yay.
Mark,
Sorry, yay.
I was afraid we lost you there, right? Larry,
Yay.
and I vote yay, carried 5-0. So we have sort of a pre-motion for adjournment. I just had one more thing in my notes that didn't come up. And do we have a request for some pre-budget approval? Or now that this budget's approved, we don't need that?
We don't need it now.
Right.
Okay. Perfect. So that means that any departments that are looking to try to jump the gun and get out there and get the best prices they can get have the go-ahead as of now to do that. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Perfect. Then I will accept Scott's motion to adjourn.
Can I, before you do that, Mayor King?
Yes, yes.
Can I just, now that you've approved both the operating and capital, can I make a comment on the incredible amount of work that has gone underway to prepare the material? The leadership through the treasurer, Nusrat Ahmed, as well as the contributions from the various members of the senior management team, respecting hard work to get their departmental budgets in order, update the objectives, accomplishments from 2020, the goals ahead for 2021. This document serves an incredible sort of piece that we can now move forward and implement our plans. And with the approval of council, directions from council, and the work through the coordinator committees, as well as now the approvals and discussion here at these lengthy budget meetings. We really appreciate your efforts and approval today. And I want to thank you for that. And again, thank in particular staffs and the treasurers and staff's contributions to make this come to reality. So thank you very much for that.
Here, here. I agree. Anything else from any other members of council or staff? So for the third time, we're back to Scott's motion to adjourn. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Larry. All in favor? I can see everybody hands. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, council, very much, and staff. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.